If you could please sign your name next to your name. There's a column you'll notice there that has of missing forms. So please note what you're going to be, what you need to submit still. Emma, where's Emma? Emma, have you uploaded your passport information yet?
I still haven't gotten the passport now.
Okay, do you know when you anticipate getting it?
Probably like this week.
This week, okay.
Should be.
I know on the Department of State's website, you can kind of creep on your application and find out what the anticipated delivery date is. If you could please do that today, that'd be great, because we're going to be purchasing the airfare very, very soon, and so we'll need that information from you. If you're not going to be getting it in the next week or next couple of days, actually, if you could email to me your name exactly as you put on your application. So if you use just your middle initial, let me know that. If you use your full middle name, so your name, you have to purchase your ticket and your name as it appears on your passport, basically. Okay. Great. I think it looks like everyone else had uploaded their passport information. So yeah, just take a note. It seems like most people are missing that special medical form. Let's see. I'll also pass around our agenda. We have an official agenda. We could pass this around as well.
Can I make a plug about the medical form?
Yeah.
So the medical form, there's, you can remind me how it works. There's stuff that you fill out, you know, like just medical history of yourself that's optional, right? Okay, so.
Well, the form's not optional, but yeah, it's a self-disclosure kind of.
Right, self-disclosure thing. So last year, for the first time ever, I had to take somebody to the hospital because there was something that, it ended up being fine, but for a little while it was pretty serious. He had like a serious reaction to some medication. And the information that this guy had put on his self-disclosure form was very helpful. You know, and in this crisis situation, I'm the one who used it, you know, to transmit to the medical people in Oaxaca where it happened about, you know, drug allergies and things like that. So I encourage you, I mean, it is, you can really honestly disclose as little or as much as you want, but it's used only by me in a crisis, and only then in a crisis situation, and I guard your confidentiality, but I encourage you to disclose anything that might be relevant to that.
That's very true. Thank you. Good to know in case you need it. So yeah, so most of you need to submit the special medical health risk and release form. So in addition, because of your location, in addition to the self-assessment, the medical self-assessment that you did upon confirmation and probably took you 5 minutes, you're also required as part of your application, your post-application process, is to have the special medical form completed by a healthcare professional. Oh, yeah. So that is on your to-do list basically for your application still. It's an unchecked item. And you probably, do you guys get reminders, like automatic reminders? Okay, you'll probably get that automatic reminder until it's completed. That's due December 1st. And so if you haven't yet scheduled an appointment with either your personal physician or with Norris, I recommend doing that now, because we have programs, basically if you're going to a program outside of Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, we require students to complete this form, and we have quite a few programs that are over the winter break that are that require this form. And so Norris gets filled up pretty quickly, so I would say get in now if you can, so at least get the appointment scheduled. And I understand that it's like a multi-step process. That's why I say call now and schedule it, because from what I understand from students, first you got to go see the nurse for your first appointment, and you have to do some sort of assessment with her, and then you have to go back for a second appointment. And I feel like I've heard there's a third appointment now. There's not a third appointment?
You can skip, like, there's a provider appointment, and then you can do, like, the vaccines and do them right after. But if you can't, like, lump them together, then you have the third one.
Gotcha. So there's at least 2.
Yeah, I had to do a preliminary one and then schedule later to meet with a nurse practitioner and then get any vaccines they needed.
Gotcha. So the vaccines can be lumped into the second one.
Yeah.
Okay,
So can you call Norris and schedule?
Yeah,
Or do
you
you have to?
schedule with a preliminary appointment with the travel nurse.
Because I remember calling and I got the voicemail and said something that you had to go online.
Yeah, it has that whole list of things to do first.
I
If it's your
called.
first time ever going, you might have to just fill out some forms, which is why they may have said go online.
It was my first time and I did it right there.
They can transfer you right over to the travel nurse stuff usually.
Yeah.
so.
That's what I thought, and then they gave me this huge long list of stuff to do online, and I was like, I don't know what any of this means.
I didn't have to do that.
I would
just
say you
called.
can just stop in there and ask them.
I went in originally to try to schedule an appointment, and then they told me I had to call, and then when I called, they told me I had to go online.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
probably
just
because we
like,
got her voicemail. If she would have been there, we probably would have been able to schedule it. I bet that's what it was. Because it was like a long voicemail.
That's
about what to do.
Wow. Yeah, try again. And do it now, again, because they do the appointments fill up the later in the semester as students prepare to go, so.
Do we turn in the signed forms to you?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So once the healthcare professional has signed the form, you bring it to our office. You'll see there's a couple of boxes that they can check. I think one is like okay to travel with no concerns, restrictions. There's 3 actually. There's that one, and then there's one like have some reservation, kind of. It's like a tertiary hierarchy to these forms, and then it's like I do not approve of this student traveling. So we do review those forms just to make sure the appropriate boxes are being checked. But it is required that you do go see a physician or healthcare professional and have that signed. So the original does come back to our office, and then at that point we'll check it off on your online application for you. Any questions about that? Special medical form? Okay. Due by December 1st. So again, make that appointment as soon as possible. You've got to have two appointments. If you are not able to make it by December 1st, that's okay. But just email me so I can make a note in your application that you know your appointment's on December 6th, and so we're expecting it that day or something like that. Just so, because we do need that form before you depart, and so we do monitor the students who haven't submitted it, and we do check to see if there's like an extension has been granted. So if your appointment winds up being after December 1st, just be in contact with me, and that way I can note it. At some point, we start assessing late fees, and so to avoid that late fee, just let me know. Just be in contact with me and let me know that you're working on it.
What's your email?
My email is washing R, WASHING, and then my first initial R.
Because you love laundry so much?
I know, right? My last name is so long, they couldn't fit the whole thing, so. Washing R, yeah. So yeah, that's my email address. Any other questions about special medical form? Other forms, a couple of optional forms. So the Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act, the FERPA form, and the Power of Attorney form. So the FERPA form, those are both optional forms again. That is basically a document, so as adults in charge of your own education, you and only you have access to your educational information. And so we're not able to speak with anyone who may contact our office to talk about your participation in the program. And so without this form in place, again, we can't give out really any information. I mean, we can't even really confirm or deny you're participating in a program if a parent or sibling or someone in your family or circle of friends calls to inquire about you. And so that's really at your discretion and decision to decide whether or not you want to submit that form, how close you have your relationship with your family and your friends. And so we let students opt in or opt out with that form in terms of submitting it. And you can also, there's a bunch of different check boxes on that form. You can sort of cherry pick what information you're willing to have us share with someone, again, who might call to inquire about your participation in the program. So that form is in your online application. You would just click on it, print it out. It has to be notarized by a notary. We have a notary on campus in Chapman Hall, room 380, that can notarize documents for you. during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, I think 8 to 4:30. So if you would like to submit that form, that person can do that for you. The power of attorney is another optional form. That's a legal form that has to be notarized. And the power of attorney form, essentially, you designate someone to sort of act on your behalf in financial or legal matters in your absence. And so, again, that's in your online application. You would print it out. With that form, the person to whom you're designating that power has to be present when it's notarized as well. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you have to sign it in the presence of a notary. That person has to sign it in the presence of a notary. And then with the FERPA form, so again, that is allowing our office to speak to people that you authorize in advance on that form. That form comes back to our office. The original comes back to our office. We keep it on file, so in the event someone does call, we can verify that we have the authorization to talk to them. The power of attorney form is helpful for us to have a copy of that form, but the original rests with the person to whom you're designating that power of attorney, basically, so that they can take that form to the financial aid office or to the credit union with them, and they can sort of act on your behalf again. So the FERPA form, the original comes to our office. The power of attorney form, the original stays with the person that you're designating. Any questions about that? Optional forms. There's no due date for those forms. I forgot to mention that. So those forms, because they're optional, you can submit them anytime before you go. Okay, we just need them in our office before you go. If you're not interested in submitting those forms, there's a way that you can mark both of them not applicable, so that you can stop getting automatic reminders about those. So if you're not interested in that, you can definitely mark it not applicable. Okay, let's see. If you guys have any questions, let's jump on in. We'd like to have this be a conversation as much as we can. So, personal behavior and conduct expectations. As part of your online application, you all signed a code of conduct, sort of a behavior contract with UWM and with the Center for International Education. And so, this is really a mirror of what, do you know what the Dean of Students office is? Yeah, okay. I did it when I was a student. I only know now that I work in administration. But as a student, I had no idea. Exactly. So our office works closely with it. It's basically, I guess, for students who have conduct issues. You have to go see the Dean of Students, and you have maybe like a conduct violation or something like that. So we work really closely with the Dean of Students office to verify in advance that students don't have any history of conduct violations. And so we really want students to be on their best behavior while they're studying abroad and conduct themselves in a respectful way to the people of Mexico, because we are working really closely with partners in Mexico and longstanding partners in Mexico. And we expect students to behave in a way that is, again, respectful and becoming of a UWM student, okay? So that means things like no damaging property, and we've had instances where students have behaved badly abroad and damaged property, and you guys are liable personally for that. We're not paying if you damage a hotel room. We had an instance where students, and they're either in Germany or France, and they did something to the plumbing, the room flooded, it was a mess. And so they are being held personally liable for damaging the property of the hotel room there. We're not going to pay for that for you. So, again, being mature adults, I'm sure no one on this program is going to do that. But, yeah, so just be on your best behavior. Keep your eye on this one here.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
So, one of the forms that you signed is something called parentis locus or something like that. Anyways, so there's some legal thing that I don't remember the name of it, which is in play here, where, for a regular class, which this isn't, like it's a normal on-campus class, there's various branches of the university, there's the professor who's in charge of the academic stuff in the classroom, and then there's this office and that office that's responsible for other things, including the dean of students that's responsible for disciplinary things. On a study abroad class, the program directors, me and Connie, my assistant, who was traveling, she can't be, we are the university. I mean, literally, you know? So we have all the powers that all of the other branches of the university typically have on campus. And now, you know, the people that go on these programs like you guys, you're good people, nothing's gonna happen, you know? But every now and then, something comes close to happening, you know? And so just be aware that we, Connie and I, do have the same powers that the dean of students have. You know, we can discipline people and say, for example, you can't come with us today. You know, you have to go back home at your own expense. I mean, these things never happen, right? I mean, the closest that we ever got is one year, one of the hotels that we stayed at had a party for us, which was very nice. And one of the girls on the program was drinking too much, and she started cozying up to some guys, other guests at the hotel who I regarded as not people that I wanted, that would be a good idea to be cozying up to. And, you know, and I told her that you have to stop drinking and you have to stay away from those people. And she did, because she had to. You know, so that was extreme. All the years I've done this, only one time did that ever happen. It's not going to happen with you guys, but just so you know.
It's a great example, actually. I mean, excessive drinking, also a no-no. One, for safety reasons, and then again, just being respectful. Yeah, I mean, excessive drinking puts you at risk for a lot of different criminal activity, so you have to be on your P's and Q's about that. And also just, I mean, and these things, these scenarios, I think, sort of evolve with actual experiences. You could be dismissed from a program if you're not, if your behavior is found to be so unacceptable that there's zero tolerance now, you could be dismissed from a program. That's extreme. We hope that doesn't happen, but that is a possibility. And we actually had to dismiss a student from a semester-long program this current semester, last week, for something that the student did. And so and he's also facing a meeting with the dean of students upon return. So again, that's the extreme situation, circumstance. But that's what the dean of students does. I guess I was a good student because I didn't know what the dean of students was back in my day. But they're like the disciplinary office on campus. So, yeah. So you've signed that code of conduct. Conduct yourself as a respectful adult, basically. And then that also can affect the group dynamics. I mean, you don't want to be that student that's causing kind of like the root of a bad dynamic. You guys are 12, you know, it's 12 students, so, you know, be that positive student that's you know, a good part of the good dynamic of the group. Okay, so let's see, course registration. So the study abroad office will be enrolling you in the course that you selected. So everyone here has dutifully filled out that questionnaire in your online application as far as how you want this course to count. So our office takes care of that enrollment through the registrar's office. We will enroll you in that 3-credit course. Probably we have a person that's designated in our office to do that, and she will probably be taking care of that. It's November already. Wow, middle of November, maybe the 3rd week of November or so. So look for that to be on your pause account pretty soon. If it's, I would say you'll look at, check, make sure it's the right course, and let me know if it's not the right course. And then Emma, right? You'll let me know about your meeting with your advisor in terms of, okay, perfect. But yeah, so make sure it's the right course. Other than that, you guys should be all set as far as your registration goes. So there's no action needed on your part to register for anything. Our office takes care of that for you. You guys probably already talked about your itinerary and daily schedule and stuff like that.
We do a little bit more.
Academic expectations and all that kind of good stuff. So I'll leave that for you to tackle. And in-country logistics and food and housing and excursion, like any of that stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about it on that too.
Let's see. Financials. So your fees, that's always a great question. So our office works with many different hotels and bus companies and other logistical aspects of this program. And so we're still in the process of finalizing those contracts, finalizing payments. And so once all of those pieces of the puzzle are put into place, then we'll be able to, then we'll be able to actually determine what the fees are going to be posted to your account. Yeah, there you go. So once those invoices have been paid to, you know, bus services and hotels and anything like that, then we'll be able to determine the cost of the program and be able to post those fees to your account. So it's tough to give students like a really good estimate of when that's going to happen, because again, we have many moving parts and many vendors, particularly with this program, because you guys move around a lot. There's lots of different hotels involved and things like that. I mean, the hope is a week before you go, but just keep checking your that'd be the worst case scenario, but just keep checking your POS account. You'll have at least a week to pay the fees before you go. They'll be posted to your POS account at that point. And so you would just pay it as you normally would your fees on your POS account. If you're using financial aid, Allie, this is actually a good question for you. Do you know when financial aid gets dispersed for winter?
It's always 10 days before the beginning of any term, so it should be right around the Christmas break time for
Okay.
financial aid distribution.
Okay.
I have a question about that actually. If you, because I know we all had to apply for the study abroad grant, do you know when the decision is made?
Next week.
Let's see. Yeah, so that's, any question about the fees and how that works?
And I'm actually the one who will be posting your fees, and so I do it manually for each and every one of you, so it does take a little bit of time. But once I've finished with the entire group, I will send you an email and it'll say what the actual price was and how it was posted on your account, when the due date is, and if you have any questions, you can always email me about that too. And we can break down my information a little bit later.
Okay, you guys are quiet. Let's see. Money management, I think you probably talk about, right, John, in terms of like,
Yeah, I have a bunch of things to say about that. We haven't got to that yet.
okay, so you'll
So-
cover that?
Later or now?
You can do it now if you want.
Okay, so, we talked a little bit about this. Actually, I'll take it back. We talked a whole bunch about this, about money, right? About ATMs versus giving cash and everything. So I actually only had a couple of other things to say about it. These are like minor things. I already said the main things. Any of you guys have any questions about that? Money type issues? So the other comments I had was, first of all, tipping, okay? Tipping protocols. Restaurants, 10%. You know, here, that's a bad tip. You know, that's like a small tip. In Mexico, people typically tip like 5%. I can't bring myself to do that, you know? My wife used to be a server. She would kill me if she found out that I was only tipping 5%, you know? So I always tip 10%. And sometimes, in fact, frequently, okay, so this is something we're talking about too. We're tipping. Meals. So we will eat a lot of group meals together. There's 5 built into the syllabus that are guaranteed, but probably we're going to eat together a lot more than 5 times. The concept of separate checks doesn't exist in Mexico, okay? So there will always be one check, okay? So what happens is, you know, we go around and people know how much they order. It's the honor system, and someone, usually Connie, will collect money from everybody. So what we try to do is just say, you know, 10% tip for everybody. That way it keeps nice and simple, and the total works out. Taxi drivers, we probably won't be taking taxis, I don't know, maybe, but I don't really expect to. No tip necessary, that's weird, we always tip taxi drivers, but in Mexico, nobody does. I mean, they would love it if you did, but nobody does. Sometimes in hotels, you know, a hotel staff person will grab your bag and carry it to your room for you. If that happens, 10 pesos, which is about 50 cents, you know, per bag is typical. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just telling you the protocols, you know, many of you haven't traveled to these places before. 10 pesos per day for hotel maid staff. That's like a nice thing to do, certainly not required. And so that would be per room, right? So, you know, it's gonna be double occupancy. So if the two of you and your roommate together could leave 10 pesos per day for the hotel maids, you're being a nice guest, you know. Let's see, it's common, and a lot of the places that we're going are like tourist destinations, you know, places, cities where there's archaeological sites nearby and stuff like that. In such places, the tour guide, which is me technically, gets free meals, okay? And if that happens, that's a good thing for you guys, because that's a savings for you. Because every time that I get something that's free, that I'm expecting to pay for, that means that I have to pay less, and then there's more money available at the end to bring down the total cost, like Ally mentioned before, okay? Problem is that as your group leader, I always have a million things on my mind at all times. And so I always forget to ask. You know, free meal for the group leader, it's my only fault, okay? I always forget to ask. So I'm just putting it out there. If you guys think of it, if you remember, at a restaurant, say, hey, is there, to the wait person, you know, is there a free meal for the group leader? The answer will often be less, and you guys all benefit from that. I forget to ask. One other thing about money, and my last thing, bargaining. Okay, so you probably know that when you shop for things at many places, definitely not all, but many places, bargaining is a thing. It's expected. You know, it terrifies some people, and some people like me really enjoy that. Okay, so one thing to remember is, like, this is just my sort of impassioned plea to you guys, okay? Don't be super cheap. You know, like it's 20 pesos to the dollar. So if you're bargaining for something and they initially say 100 pesos, which is like $5, you know, and you start in with 40 pesos as your offer, which is a reasonable place to start, you know, less than half of what they ask. You know, and then they say, what? No way. That's how it goes, you know? But don't dicker over 5 pesos or something like that. You know, I mean, it's 50 cents. It means nothing to you guys. It means a lot to them because the economy is way lower than ours. Okay, that's I think that's all I have about money, unless you guys have anything you want to bring up.
What do you, like, bargain with? Like, what are we gonna be buying that you have to bargain?
Okay, so, shopping. Okay, we're gonna have a lot of shopping opportunities. You don't have to, you know, but the kind of goods, you know, the like arts, crafty kind of stuff, plus things like chocolate and Oaxaca and things like that are really fun to buy into for yourself or to bring back for your people, whatever. And also the traditional markets, some of the markets that we'll go to are like fantastic, you know, modern versions of the ancient places, you know, where people have always brought their wares to the market, you know. So we'll be seeing a bunch of those, and if nothing else, it's a cultural thing to see, right? So, I mean, you don't have to shop, you don't have to buy stuff if you don't want to. Personally, I enjoy it, you know, but. Okay?
Yes. So as far as, sorry, just gonna go back. As long as we're talking about money, Did you advise them, John, as to how much to bring, like,
Yeah.
in country?
Oh, thank you.
Did you guys already talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about that before, just to mention again, because as it gets closer, you guys are gonna be thinking about this more. So I'm not really the person to ask, the best person to ask about this. I mean, the best people to ask would be students that have gone before. But they have told me that $200-300 pretty much covers everything that you need beyond what is provided in the program. You know, so that would be most of your meals, because a handful of them are provided in the program, but most are not. You know, your laundry, I'm gonna talk more about that later. Incidentals, you know, you forgot shampoo, you gotta go buy some, gifts for yourself or your people, whatever, that's what people have told me. But also, that's the function of that, Facebook group. I made it a closed Facebook group, so you have to, like, you know, say, hey, I wanna join, and then I say, yes, you're allowed to join, because, just to, you know, just to keep it into the community of people who have gone on this trip. And so, a lot of times people have, insightful advice about whatever your question might be.
Okay. Let's talk health insurance. So our office will be enrolling you in the mandatory international health insurance. This is a requirement, a state requirement for all UW system students who are studying abroad. And so our office takes care of that enrollment for you. You pay for that health insurance, part of your study abroad fees. The cost of the health insurance is $34 per month.
33.
33? It went down?
Come on, Mona.
There's an extra dollar there. $33 per month now. Excellent. So yeah, so that will be part of your study abroad fee that are posted to your POS account. But it's a comprehensive health insurance plan. So how it works is the following ways. So if you were to, say, sustain a minor injury or have a minor illness, and you just needed to go to the doctor for a doctor's visit, you would do that. You would go to the doctor, get your service, make sure you get a receipt, because in that scenario, it acts on a reimbursement basis, okay? So you get the receipt, and then once you're back in the States, you would submit an insurance claim. And there is, or there will be, we'll activate that form for you in the next couple of months before you go, so that you can actually submit an insurance claim. It's a half-a-page form, it's not very extensive at all, with that receipt, and get reimbursed for that service that you incurred in Mexico. If something major, so it's an out-of-pocket expense in that scenario. If something major were to happen, you had a major injury or you got really, really sick, where you had to be admitted to the hospital, no out-of-pocket expenses in that scenario. So our office would interface with the hospital in Mexico to sort of what's called a guarantee of payment, and provide all that information that they need so that you're not paying anything out of pocket. So if you're admitted to the hospital, then you would actually not have any out-of-pocket expenses in that scenario. Sounds like you had some experience last year with using the insurance,
Yeah.
correct?
I've had experience twice. One year, one of the students got sick, you know, it's the stomach stuff that we talked about last time that's common, but it just so happened for her it was worse than usual, and she got dehydrated and had to take her to a hospital. She got hooked up to IV. Within 2 hours, she was back to like 90%, and you know. So in that case, like Ramona said, she paid out of pocket. I don't remember how much it was. She told me, but like she took care of everything, you know, filed for the insurance claim. It was something like 40 or 60 bucks, something like that. Last year we had a more serious problem. I had to take a guy told you about it, reaction to a medication, emergency room, and he was admitted to the hospital, overnight stay and all that. And in that scenario, that's when what's supposed to happen is what Ramona described, that no out-of-pocket money is spent. It actually didn't happen that way because we were traveling the next morning. And turns out that he was released. We scrambled to get him out of the hospital and get him on the plane and travel with us. And because of that, there was no time for the direct payment to happen. So what happened, the total amount that it cost was something like $400 or $500. And so between Connie and I, we paid it, and then we got reimbursed after, and everything was fine. So it works, insurance works.
Will we be getting like insurance cards or something?
Yeah, so like I said, our office will enroll students in that policy. For the time being, Ally actually takes care of that as well. Ally, when do you think that will happen?
I would say probably within the next few weeks.
In the next couple of weeks?
And so once everyone's enrolled, we can send you a link for how to access the MyCISI portal. And that's where all you need to register is your name and date of birth. And you create your own password, and that's where you have access to the insurance information. Shows you everything that you're covered for. You gotta have claim forms, your ID cards. If for some reason you need a letter of proof of insurance for whatever reason, you'd have that in there as well. And then, of course, you can always contact CISI for any type of direct questions about the coverage itself too.
Yeah, so when Ally does that, gets that tasked on, we'll email you to let you know you've been enrolled, so please log into the portal, start your account, verify your information to make sure everything's correct, spelling of your name, your date of birth, all that kind of good stuff. It just is helpful to just take a couple minutes to do that, because if you do need to use the insurance, which hopefully you won't, but if you do, it makes a harrowing experience a little less harrowing if it goes more smoothly. And if your information is not correct, that's just an extra bump in the road for you to take care of remotely. So it's worthwhile just, again, to make sure that all of your information is correct. You can actually download the insurance card for you to have while you're there once you actually start your online portal with CISI, is the name of the insurance, Cultural Insurance Services International.
And both of the times that I have, unfortunately had to help someone with a hospital thing. In both cases, the first thing that I did is I contacted my friends/colleagues in the city that it happened. And I asked them, what is the very best hospital? Don't care about cost, we have insurance, right? And that's where we went. So just keep that in mind too. If anything happens, even if it's not hospital serious, but like just doctor stuff, if you wish, I have contacts in all these places, people who live there who could recommend, I gotta see a doctor, can you recommend a good one, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, don't be afraid to use the insurance. Like if you do get a case of the tummies while you're there and you need to go someplace, you'll get reimbursed for it. So there's no need to suffer in silence or suffer because you're afraid to use the insurance. From what I understand, what was your reimbursement process? Was it pretty easy?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. We only had an issue because the services were for a student, but they were paid by me and by Connie, and that confused the insurance company. So we just had a little bit of back and forth, but it wasn't very bad. And in the end, they paid everything to me, and then I reimbursed, because the student had paid some of the stuff, Connie had paid some, I had paid some. It was fine.
Yeah, from what I've understood from students who have used it in the past, it's a pretty seamless process. It goes pretty quickly. Allie, do you know, can they still get a direct deposit for that, or do they get a check?
I would assume it's a check, but I'm not 100%.
In my case, it was. I seem to recall that I had a choice to put direct deposit information. I opted for a check to be sent, but.
I feel like I've heard students can get direct deposit or a check. So yeah, it's usually a pretty quick process. There's an app for that, so you can download the CISI app. It just makes ease of access easy, just like any app. So if you have, if you're willing and inclined to do so, again, that's an easy way to access the insurance portal. You can delete the app once the program's over with, but it's a convenient way. Again, insurance is sort of like in case of, right? It's that emergency contingency plan that you don't want to have to think, or you want to think as in the event of an emergency, you want to think, have as little steps as possible to actually, in place, to make that process go easier. So, yeah, so you can download the app if you like, kind of navigate the site and things like that. Any questions about how the insurance works? We talked about the special medical form. Norris and the CDC, great websites. So in the past, Norris, and this is to answer your question that you emailed me about, Norris had the bandwidth to provide specific vaccination recommendations for our students traveling abroad. They're not able to do that for us anymore, at least not this cycle. They just don't have the staff to accommodate that request. But what you can do is, Norris, in order to do that, they will provide sort of a comprehensive sheet of like required, highly recommended, consider this kind of vaccinations. They actually reference the CDC for that information, so you can just go directly to the CDC website to see what the required recommendations and vaccinations are to go to Mexico. So that's sort of like going straight to the source on your own.
So we talked about that a little bit last time, and so I had showed you the CDC stuff, remember? And I had said, don't worry, Norris will look at this and other sources and tell you what to do. So apparently that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I would say that, okay, I can't give medical advice, right? But I can tell you what I do for myself. So what I do is I look at all that stuff, the same stuff that I gave you, and I kind of generate an opinion about what I think I need. And then when I go to my doctor for my pre-travel visit, I show him that stuff and I say, this is what I think I need. What do you think? And he'll give me his opinion, and he might say some useful things like, oh, you had the typhoid vaccination last year, you don't need it this year, or whatever. So it looks like you're more on your own as far as that goes than I expected before. But definitely look at the CDC stuff and/or discuss it with the medical professional, because these vaccinations are for bad things that you don't want to get.
And also when you have your appointment, if you go to Norris at the travel clinic, they'll recommend stuff for you too. I think they're just not taking the time to do like the actual form anymore. But if you use Norris, is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, they did really walk me through it.
Mhm.
Yeah, they
Give guidance.
show
It's
you,
actually more personable probably,
Yeah.
but yeah.
they go through the CDC website with you, and then they don't like force you to get the vaccines,
Yeah.
but then there's other prescriptions that they offer. So like I got some prescriptions that I can travel with,
Yep,
just in case.
yeah, they have a list of what you can choose from, and she was explaining like the different side effects, the different costs, how long you would take it for, so. It
Yeah, they're
was
pretty thorough, I
really
think,
easy.
when you have
Yeah, I didn't feel like I had to, necessarily figure it out on my own.
And then they have the costs. The vaccine costs are an out-of-pocket expense for you, but they'll let you know how much they cost at Norris as well.
When I went, they did say that in some cases, if you keep the receipts for whatever you get that day, you can send them to your personal insurance.
Oh, sure.
Some people have been reimbursed, otherwise you can go to your own doctor and get whatever vaccines you need.
Yeah, it probably depends on your personal health insurance, but I would definitely explore that.
They recommended that I reach out to my insurance just to see if it's covered. Yeah.
But at a minimum, you're going to want like, to make sure you're up to date your flu shot and your tetanus shot and all the things that you should be anyway, in spite of traveling, up to date on. But yeah, Norris will walk you through and advise you on what recommendations they have. They just won't be providing that in advance sheet for you. Medications, if you are traveling with any kinds of medications, so you're going to leave everything in their original containers, clearly labeled, and in your carry-on bag. So not checked away in your checked luggage in case you go to Mexico and your luggage goes to Australia. You really want to keep anything, especially timed medications, like a prescribed medication, like on your person somewhere in your backpack or your purse or somewhere where you have access to it when you need to take that medication. But definitely, another thing to consider is to verify the legality if you are taking a prescribed drug into Mexico. You want to do a little bit of independent research on your own to make sure that it's legal to take that into Mexico. Typically it will be, but we have seen instances where some countries are more strict than others in what you can bring into their country. I'm thinking specifically of, I think it's Japan that is very strict on like Sudafed. You can't bring Sudafed into Japan because you can make the ingredients of Sudafed, you can make, I don't know, crystal meth with or something like that. So again, if you're taking a prescription medication, just double check, and that will be on the CDC's website as well, to make sure that you can actually bring it. If whatever you're taking, if you can't, you decide you figure out that you can't, it is illegal to bring it to Mexico, work with your personal physician to find a substitute or to see what a plan B would be in that situation.
And then one other comment too, if you have anything, personal medications like Ramona's talking about, that involves needles, like EpiPen, if you need to carry that for allergies or whatever, I suggest that you, go to the trouble of getting a letter from your doctor saying, this person is prescribed this thing because she needs it, or whatever, you know. That's not, in theory, that's not necessary, but I say that because my wife has to carry an EpiPen, and she has on more than one occasion been hassled by security agents and delayed and searched and everything, so she carries that.
So if we have to, I have to bring needles because I'm diabetic, how should we like package those then, like in the original prescribed box?
Okay, so that's kind of like a more extreme thing, right?
Okay.
I think that you need to talk to us, you know,
Okay.
so that we can work with you and the insurance company, and, you know, who knows, there may be refrigeration issues involved, I don't know. So let's make that be a personal thing, okay? But the other thing too is for you and for anyone else who may have anything with needles, another suggestion that I have is when we go through airport security, which is only going to be a small handful of times on this trip, go with me, okay, walk with me, so that if you have a problem, you know, that your program director can be right there and see that there's a problem and help you out of it.
And you should visit the TSA's website as well. They have some specific recommendations, I think, if you have to travel with needles for medical reasons. That'd be a good place to start. But like John mentioned, requesting that letter from a healthcare professional. I mean, a lot of these things on the agenda checklist here is just, you know, verifying the legality of getting a letter from your healthcare professional, knowing the generic name of your medicine. Those are all really just steps to take in preparation in case something happens to the medication, in case it gets lost or stolen. Again, being prepared is better, a better way to handle it, rather than just sort of like, if things fall apart or go off the rails, having to figure out what to do. So if you already know the generic name, maybe Mexico doesn't carry that specific brand, you just are kind of prepared, and it takes a little bit of the stress off a typically normal, a situation that would normally be very stressful anyway.
Yeah, if I could say something about that one too. So a couple years ago, we had a person who had some condition, some like muscular thing, some chronic muscular condition, where whenever it acted up, she had to take a pill of a certain type. Well, unexpectedly for her, in the very hot and humid atmosphere of Palenque, she had to take way more pills than she was expecting, and she ran out. And so I took her to a pharmacy, you know, and the problem is that they don't have that drug, they never heard of it. And we were able to solve it with some difficulty, and she was kind of freaking out about this, by figuring out, doing a little research online, and found out that that very same drug is called a couple of different things in Mexico. Same drug, you know, generics, brand names, whatever, but different names. And so, okay, we solved the problem, a happy ending. But she could have avoided the stress if she did that beforehand, just to know that. So, you know, if you have some medication that you would be grieved to not be able to buy, or something like that, you might wanna take a few minutes to do that and just come armed with that information.
That's a great example, actually. Again, just taking the stress off up top. Yeah, and I would say just as a last comment about medications, like if you do take like allergy medication, something over the counter, try to stick with a brand that you would normally take while you're here, rather than introducing something new, and take that with you to Mexico. I've not been to many of the cities that you're going to, so I don't know what's available there, but if you're used to taking, I don't even know I have allergies, what is an allergy medication? Zyrtec, that's the one thing. If you're used to taking Zyrtec, make sure you take Zyrtec. If you're traveling, your immune system might be a little bit compromised, you might be tired. It's not a good idea to introduce a new kind of medication to your body, so just take what you're used to.
Yeah, there are pharmacies everywhere we're going, but, Ramona's right, sometimes they have weird stuff that's not what you're used to. So.
Yeah, or it's like in a different form or something, so again, just kind of take what you're already used to taking.
Wait,
Yeah.
so if we ever had to go to the pharmacy and get some sort of medication, does the insurance come in and help pay for that as well? Or is that?
I don't think medications are covered in that
Okay.
sense. You know, Ally?
There might be a certain percentage, I'd have to double check.
But yeah, I don't think I don't think medications are covered, but maybe we can check on that.
Yep, I'll see if I can take a look
Again,
at coverage.
it might be a little bit different in your case,
I was
so,
just curious, I
yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
don't anticipate
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that
But
would
it's
happen.
worth checking it
Yeah.
out. so.
Let's see. Norris offers this $10 health kit, like first aid and health kit. For the folks who've used Norris before, have you guys?
We talked
purchased
about
them?
that.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Is anyone planning on getting one? Yeah?
Do you need one?
Anyone
Do you
willing
want
to get one
extras?
for me? Thank you, I will pay you back, of course.
It's a nice little kit though,
Yeah.
right? Like-
Remember, it's for your friend who's a student, it's not for me, it's only for the student.
It's so
You said
nice that
they
he
don't
wants
give it to you
extra.
for 10, they like,
What?
they don't give it to you for 10, they like way overcharge or something?
They won't give it to me at all,
You have to be a student.
yeah,
You have to.
There's so much good stuff in it.
yeah,
It's expensive.
but thank you, I appreciate that.
Where is the Norris Health Center?
Do you know where, Saban Hall is, and like Green Hall and Mitchell and all that stuff?
Do you know where the Bocce is?
Yeah.
Like, it's like.
Yeah,
Just
it's
south
in
of
the
there.
middle of like all.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the Bocce Center.
Yeah, yeah.
It's right
Okay.
near the Bocce Center. It's like a little house almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it took me like 10 minutes walking around campus to find this building.
Oh,
So,
no.
Yeah, I'm way south of here at School for Structural Sciences, so.
There's always
Oh.
one guy who always gets
Library
lost
and
in
this
these
building now.
Gotcha. Well, it's a little innocuous building by the Bocce Center, put it that way.
Yeah, it's like there's like all these other buildings around it, and
It's
the
kind of
north
in the
is
middle,
like
right?
right in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
landlocked, that's for sure.
I just put everything on maps. I don't know where actually
Oh.
everything is.
So I think it's a great buy though for 10. It kind of encompasses everything that you would want to take, just in case of, right? Like Imodium and Neosporin, I think. So it's a nice little catch-all for $10.
Do you know if there are like electrolyte supplements in it?
I just buy none,
Okay.
for sure.
I don't know.
Good question.
Do you remember a electrolyte
I'm
supplement?
gonna go get my bag, I have one in my office.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
gonna
Let's
bring
check it
in.
out.
Yeah. I traveled to Honduras and it was like 105 degrees
Ooh.
every day when we were working and we all got like heat sickness.
Mm.
So just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Interesting. Yeah, that's, I don't know actually. But we'll find out.
regardless, I'm sure they're not expensive. so-
No.
Yeah, you can get like a little canister of none for like $5.
Oh,
For
okay.
Foods and stuff, yeah, that's what I'll take.
Not even bad, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
What is it, electrolytes?
Oh, yeah. Like runners use it for when they need
That's
to
like a
refuel.
really good idea, because I know when he was saying like, always drink water,
Yeah,
but
like,
like, since,
you're gonna want some
but
electrolytes.
since I'm diabetic too, if I drink too much water,
Mm.
then my
Is it
blood
like
sugar will go too
Pedialyte?
low, so I need to like keep up.
Mhm.
They have these,
Pedialyte would almost do the same thing, because I know like if you drink too much, I take
electrolytes in the morning.
I do.
But I heard that you can take Pedialyte too.
I drink Pedialyte before I drink.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
then-
idea.
Yeah.
So,
When I swam, they had these things for like, they were like squares and they're kind of chewy. And you can buy them, I always buy
Yeah,
them from
it's
like
the same
a bike shop,
yeah.
because they're really cheap there.
Or like running.
There's triathlon, triathletes
Oh,
use them like while they're.
Or NUN, that's what I use.
Oh,
those, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like gum. No, they're tablets that you put
Oh,
in
a
your
couple
water,
years ago,
or,
but-
like
Okay.
what she's talking
Oral
about, you could, like the
rehydration
little
is-
jelly
Oh,
squares.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Gatorade makes them, but there's like other
Oral
brands.
rehydration.
Yeah,
Gatorade
it's
uses
not
them
complete, I
over
used a couple other things.
Right, you can
Okay.
get a fitness.
Drink
Is
level.
it, so they give you a list of what's in there too?
Yeah,
So you get
Gatorade
that.
has
Well, then you get like.
Yeah,
But that's
it's
not
solid.
good.
Sugar.
Yeah.
But you can't
Dissolve
bring
in
your.
1 liter of water, but they only give you one.
This is also a lot.
Right, that's
I just
okay.
bring the
Like, it's
tablets.
a
Is
lot
that
of
the-
content.
For
Oh,
the chewies.
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe it'd be good to bring some extra.
So yeah.
They do give one, but.
So John's got an
One.
example, maybe you wanna pass that around when you're done,
Yeah.
of what,
Oh,
from a couple of
maybe,
years ago.
yeah.
Can't
Once
imagine it's
open-
probably changed too much, but to give you an idea of what's included in the packet.
And I used some of the stuff already, so it's not full.
So $10 Norris. Okay, so cold medicine, painkillers, feminine products, motion sickness, those are all things that you should kind of consider. If you think you'll need those while you're there, again, not introducing anything new into your routine, just kind of sticking with the same products that you would normally use. Glasses and contact lenses. I mean, I wear glasses. I don't have a second pair of glasses, but because I typically wear contact lenses. But if I did, I would probably take them in case they get broken. I mean, I'm the kind of person where I have to wear my glasses all the time, so they tend not to get broken. So they're never off my face if I'm wearing them. But yeah, I mean, it's just a good idea in case of, right? So.
So Mexico is civilized, I mean, you could get new glasses, but the thing is that we're doing a lot of stuff in a small amount of time, and we don't have very much time. If you had to, you know, if you're blind without your glasses and you break your glasses and you need them, then okay, but you're gonna miss whatever's happening that day, right? So,
Yeah, you guys do a lot of travel, so there's not like time to. So in terms of like mental health, you know, studying abroad is meant to be an enjoyable experience, of course, but sometimes it can maybe trigger certain mental health issues, or something may come out. And so if you are experiencing any sort of mental health issues, it's important to let your program leaders know. Nothing can be addressed unless you speak up. If you're having a hard time adjusting or anything like that, it's really important to communicate that to your program leaders, and they can help you through that process as much as possible. CISI, again, is a good resource for finding local mental health professionals if that's something that you need, and they can assist in that as well. Again, another good reason to go in the CISI portal, get familiar with it, download the app, see the resources that are available to you, because it's really important to stay not just physically healthy, but make sure that your mental health is in tip-top shape as well. Okay. So any questions about the stuff the health stuff we just talked about, insurance, other health-related questions? Okay, safety. I'm going to pass around what we officially call the emergency contact sheet. This is something that you should take with you. To Mexico and make a copy of it, and leave a copy of it with family or friends, okay, with your circle, basically. It contains a lot of information on there. It contains your program leader information, and I'm probably going to be sending out a revised edition of this because we haven't, Allie, I'm going to have to look to you to answer this. The cell phone numbers haven't been assigned yet, correct?
Nah, that's a clear question, but probably not yet, no.
Okay. So your program leaders will have cell phones that we provide to them with phone numbers where we can reach them if we need to reach them, and they can reach us if they need to reach us. And so that's something that happens actually a little bit later in the process. So I'll be sending out a revised one of these sheets later. But I did want to give you this just so that you have one in place and you know what it looks like when you get the revised one. So we have the program dates for program leaders' emails and phone numbers on here. We have the CIE information, our direct office phone number, the campus police phone number. And that's really, I mean, you know where we are, but what if you left us with your family and they need to contact you and they're not sure how to get in contact with you, they can always contact us. We have like an on-call staff person after hours all the time, so if it's after hours on the weekends or in the evenings, your family can call, say something happens here and they need to get a hold of you here, your family can call the campus police, or if they happen to call our office, that voicemail will direct them to the campus police phone number, and the campus police will call our on-call number, okay? And then we can get a hold of you through the phone that we've provided with, to John and Connie Jo.
And then one thing I didn't mention last time, we talked a little bit about cell phones and stuff like that, is I want to, I'm not gonna worry about this until like the first couple days, you know, in Milwaukee before we travel, but, excuse me, I'm gonna want to have a way to individually contact each of you when we're in Mexico, whether that's an internet means like Facebook Messenger or cell phone or something, and that's for like, you know, for a safety thing. I mean, if you're not here, no one knows where you are, that kind of thing. But also like that need pops up in unexpected ways. You know, like for example, with the kid that was in the hospital last year, and all of a sudden we're trying to leave, you know, I had to call his roommate to get him to pack up this guy's stuff for him. So it's ready, so he'll be ready to go. And I could do that quickly because I had his info, you know, so just, that's coming, but later.
We've got the embassy information on here. And that's mostly for if your passport gets lost or stolen. And so hopefully we won't need that. Or if you get arrested, but hopefully that won't happen. Almost never happens on a study abroad program, but if you do get arrested, our office can help you. So contact the embassy. We have no legal authority in Mexico whatsoever. But again, it's mostly if your passport gets lost or stolen. And then your lodging information is on here, where you're all going to be staying, because you guys do move around a lot. So that information's on here as well.
The email address changed at one of the hotels, I'll let you know about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so when I send out the revised one, that'd be great.
Is Mexico in the same time zone as us?
Yes, well, at least the places that we're going are.
They're all central?
Whatever we are, that's what they are.
So maybe not all of
I don't know if
Mexico,
we're
but where
South
you're going to be
Carolina.
is
I think we
Central
There's like a
I
little
thought it was
sliver of
mountains.
Mexico that's
Central
not-
Daylight or something. Time's gonna change on Wednesday. I mean, it's the fall back.
That's right.
On Wednesday there?
No, sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know, I didn't mean to say Wednesday. November 5th.
It is Sunday, yeah, Saturday to
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
always
Saturday.
Sunday at 2 again.
Extra hour part time.
Is this?
But yeah, no time difference.
Oh, I have to remember that. I work Sunday morning, so.
So yeah, we also have the, what number to dial for an emergency in Mexico on the back, in case you need that as well. So again, preview of a revised copy that's coming to you with a new phone number and a new email address for one of the hotels. But when I do send this to you, make sure you print out a new copy and then give a copy to your family. Let's see. So we encourage students to enroll themselves in the U.S. Department of State's Smart Traveler Enrollment Plan. That is a great plan that the Department of State runs. You have to enter your passport number. The government knows you're there. They can send you basically travel alerts if something should happen in the places where you're staying. They can notify you of this, either via, depending on what information you put in there, email, text, all that kind of good stuff. So, I mean, Mexico, natural disasters, political upheaval, whatever it might be, they can actually notify you of that. So that's something that you can do anytime before you depart for your program. Let's take a couple minutes and just enroll yourself in this, they call it the STEP program, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Being up to date on current events and awareness of cultural norms, that's probably something that John has talked to you about already or is planning to talk to you about. I mean, our sort of mindset in the study abroad office is to really read up on the country that you're going to, be able to know basic things about, if you don't know anything about Mexico, political situation, economic situation, historical information, things like that. So just kind of being aware of what's happening in the current country is always a good idea. Again, as far as mental health goes, seeking help from any of the on-site staff if you're having difficulties. And as far as your program goes, the on-site staff really is going to be John and Connie Jo. So your faculty leaders are going to be the first person that you should go to in the event of an emergency, in the event of any sort of, again, maladjustment issues. Definitely going to resource your program leaders, because again, if you don't sort of share that information, no one will know to address that information with you. So I would say don't wait too long. If you think that you need to speak with them, definitely be proactive about involving them in that and what's going on with you. In the event of a major incident, again, natural disaster, political unrest, anything like that, our office, this is a faculty-led program, so we'll most likely reach out to John and Connie Jo to touch base and make sure everything's okay. But also be proactive in letting your family know that I'm okay, because they're going to be wondering about you. So definitely be proactive in that sense.
Here in Wisconsin, we have tornadoes, we have blizzards, stuff like that. In Mexico, they have earthquakes and hurricanes. Now it's not hurricane season, but earthquakes can happen at any time, so it's possible that something like that could happen. But
So yeah, so be proactive and just check in with your family. It was a great safety video. I think I'll email this actually out so you have the live links on it, but there's a great culture of safety video that's out that you can watch. It's really comprehensive, so I recommend you do that as well. Safety tips. John, have you talked about safety in Mexico already?
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember how much I said about this, but I talked a little bit about Mexico City crime, right? And it's basically the same as any big city, just be careful, don't do anything stupid. Other places, like in Mexico City, we're probably going to be moving around together as a group, I think, all the time. The other places that we're going, you'll have free time, you can go around. You should never go somewhere alone. You're in a different country, you should always have one person with you, but it's generally safe. I mean, the biggest issues about safety, I think, is drinking, because when you drink, the probability of every kind of bad thing happening increases tremendously. I mean, it's much easier to stumble and break your leg if you've been drinking as opposed to if you haven't been drinking, not to mention worse things. So that's the main thing. I mean, I was a student once, I get it. You're on a study abroad, you're not going to be a monk, right? But within reason, right? Because, you run a risk if bad things happen if you go overboard.
I think the biggest point is like that first under safety tips, like practice the same common sense you would as if you were living in Milwaukee. And the key here is that you're not in Milwaukee. I mean, even if you're not from Milwaukee, you're kind of used to the environment, and maybe your street sense and your spidey senses are up when you know they need to be up. But you are in a foreign country, and what if you don't speak Spanish, you might be at a little bit more of a risk because, again, you're not understanding what's happening around you. So just don't do anything that you wouldn't do in Milwaukee, and all that means. So kind of always keep that in the back of your mind. Sometimes I think students might let their guards down a little bit because they're studying abroad, and most countries don't experience the same kind of violence that's common in the United States. But it's still just to be really prudent in how you travel. I think that's great advice to always kind of have a buddy with you, use the buddy system. It's just being cautious is is good and erring on that side of caution rather than the opposite. The earbuds thing, I think that's more so you don't have a whole lot of free time, I don't think, on this program, but, and again, traveling independently is not really a factor here, but if you are that person that kind of walks around with earbuds in your ears all the time, I would recommend not doing that when you're in Mexico, just because you're less aware of what's happening around you. You might tend to zone out a little bit and not be aware of pickpocketing maybe and things like that. So you're less aware of someone rifling through a backpack or your pockets, because again, you're kind of zoned out and into your music or podcast or whatever it might be. So I'd recommend not doing the earbud thing for the most part while you're traveling. Okay, traveling and pre-departure stuff to and from the airport. I think a lot of this stuff, John, you have covered or will be covering with this part. Cell phones. I'll say a couple of things about this next section, really. Check the airlines in terms of when we book your airfare for baggage fees. We don't want students to be surprised about that.
Yeah, I told you guys a little bit about this. I had expected that by this time today we would have the flights booked. It's still in process, hasn't happened yet, but it'll be very soon. And when it happens, I'll send you that information, of course, and also all the information that I can think of about the baggage, you know? So you'll know the limits, what the cost is of exceeding those limits, and I'll send all that stuff to you.
Travel documents, copies of your passport.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
You did, perfect. Did you talk about like notifying your bank of your credit if you're traveling? Perfect. I'm going to pass around our packing list. This is a sort of a comprehensive packing list. It's a generic, sort of is very, again, comprehensive. We pass around at all of our pre-departure orientations because we really want students to just think about everything, right? Like things might not be applicable to you, but if it's not, just ignore it and move on to the next item. So again, we just want students to be really comprehensive and thinking about what they should be taking to Mexico. And
I have a bunch of items about packing. Would now be a good time to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay, so so Ramona's stuff is great, but it's general, you know, to people that are going to China and us and everything. Okay, this is more specific. So first of all, this in the past, students have, found that Facebook group, you know, helpful for this. You know, do I need to pack this? Do I need to pack this? Students from previous years will chime in with helpful advice about that. Okay, so as far as expected weather, on the syllabus, I have listed, you know, like average temperatures and things like that. I forget where it is. Oh, here it is, page 23. Okay, so you get an idea of what the temperatures are. In Mexico City in January, the typical low temperatures get down to like 40 Fahrenheit. Okay, so you'd be surprised. I mean, for me, what I do is I bring one warm thing, okay, like a sweater or a sweatshirt or something, and that's all. And even in the places that are warm, you sometimes need it because air conditioning sometimes is intense. All right, but that's just me. All right, maybe you're a person who's always cold, so you bring more than that. I don't know, but so weather expectations. That's what. Rain. You should bring. Well, not you should bring. You should be aware that if it rains, we're doing all the stuff that we plan to do anyways. Okay, because you know we have 1 or 2 days in this place, and we can't postpone and do it another day. We are there. Okay. So I recommend either getting wet, which is fine, you know, or a rain jacket, like a poncho or a rain jacket, not an umbrella, okay? In fact, when we are climbing pyramids, which we're going to be doing at a bunch of places, I'm going to actively look and tell you no umbrellas, because the stones are slippery. And you know, there's already a risk of falling, you know. And if you only have one hand because you're holding an umbrella, that's bad, right? So you want to bring an umbrella, fine, but be aware that we're not going to be using the umbrellas when we're climbing. I usually bring, you know, I have this sort of rain jacket like a windbreaker with a hood, and it stows into a really small space, and I just carry that with me if I think it might rain. That's what I do. Hat, okay? I suggest you bring a hat to prevent feeling bad because of the heat. Okay, also in Mexico City, that is going to be sort of ironically, or not ironically, paradoxically, that's going to be your biggest opportunity for sunburn. Okay, because Mexico City is high altitude. It's 2,000 feet higher than Denver. All right, and the higher the altitude is, the more your risk of sunburn. Not because you're closer to the sun. If you want to know why, you can take one of my meteorology classes. Or ask me.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. And if it's cloudy, it doesn't make any difference. The risk of sunburn is exactly the same if it's cloudy versus if it's not cloudy. So, you know, I see some people that are particularly fair-skinned, you know, be careful. Sunscreen, hat, you can do what you want, but you might be a lobster if you're not careful, you know. Okay, swimsuit. We will have swimming opportunities in 4 of the places that we're going. Some of the places that are awesome, you know, like a mountaintop mineral springs. You know, some of the places they're more like run-of-the-mill, but still cool, like a hotel pool, all right? But you'll be able to swim if you wish in several places. So be aware of that, and so bring something if you want. Shoes. So we are going to be doing a lot of walking, okay? On a couple of days, you know, a whole lot. But in general, we're going to be doing a lot of walking, and a lot of times we'll be walking on surfaces that are a little bit uneven, not just beautiful and paved, you know, like cobblestone kind of thing or whatever. So you might want to bring shoes that have like good soles, like what you're, you know, hold your foot up or something, you know, something like that, right? Whatever you want, right? But just be aware. Like I find that if I wear like the normal tennis shoes that I always wear, when I'm in Mexico, my feet are sore at the end of the day from the constant pounding of walking a lot. One other comment. I do not want you guys to wear flip-flops when we're climbing pyramids. Okay, that's another thing that I'm gonna, you know, it's because the study abroad always gets mad at me if I come back with less people. You know, it's all about me. No, but I'm gonna check, okay, I don't want you to wear flip-flops when we're climbing because your feet can slip and that increases your risk of falling, you know, and I'm not trying to scare you. We always climb and nothing ever happens, but, you know, you don't have to be stupid about it, and you know, okay, I mean, bring flip-flops if you want. We're gonna be in warm places. I bring flip-flops, but not when we're climbing. Okay, if you have a checked suitcase, most people do, but you don't have to, but if you do, I suggest tying like a bright colored shoelace on it or something. Most suitcases are black and look like every other suitcase that's coming off the carousel. All right, if yours is some distinctive looking color, then you're fine. But you know, it just saves time at airports. Okay, so TSA rules for what you can bring on planes. I gave you a handout. It was last week. I didn't like get to it, right? TSA has these rules about liquids, and they always change. Sometimes they call it 311, and I never remember what the 3 or the 1s mean. Okay, but check it out when it gets closer. You know, usually you can bring some liquids in small containers if they're in a clear Ziploc bag or something. But just be aware. If you don't pay attention to that, what's going to happen is they're going to confiscate your bottle of shampoo and your bottle of sunscreen and stuff like that if it's in your carry-on luggage. Checked luggage, I think more or less anything's okay within reason.
I was at Target 2 weekends ago, and they have like TSA, like you can buy a whole TSA approved like thing, and it has like 3.4 like bottles in there and stuff.
Nice.
And they probably have them other places, but I just saw it and I was like, I could use that.
No, that's a good tip. Okay, let's see. Okay, I want to talk about a little bit about eating. So, one of my jobs is to keep you fed. And so, you know, we're gonna eat 3 meals a day and stuff like that. But because there are 2 reasons why you might not get that meal at the exact time that you want it. One is that in Mexico, meal times are a little bit different. Breakfast is normal time, typically. Lunch is the main meal of the day. For us, it's dinner, but for them, it's lunch. In Mexico City, it happens at about 4 o'clock. Other parts of Mexico, it happens at about 2 o'clock. All right? And then dinner, usually in Mexico, typically dinner happens at like 8 or 9, and it's a light meal, you know? Now, we don't necessarily have to eat like that. We can eat our normal way, but that's one reason why it might not happen. You know, sometimes restaurants don't even open until 4 in the afternoon, you know? Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is that we are doing a lot of traveling. And and we're also gonna be doing stuff. We might be at the top of a pyramid somewhere when it's lunchtime, you know? So we will eat every day a lot. It's my favorite part of the whole thing, is eating, you know? But be aware that it might not be exactly at the time you want. So I suggest that you guys bring a small supply of something, like, you know, food that you can use when you're hungry and you're not going to get that meal until 2 hours from now. You know, for me, I go to Pick and Save and I buy a couple of boxes of granola bars, you know, in individual packets kind of thing. Dried fruit, you know, anything, just something, little snacks that you can throw some in your backpack and carry it with you. There's going to be a couple of days where, and I say it in the syllabus, that tomorrow morning, we're not going to have time for breakfast. So make sure that you have something that you can bring with you, and on the way to wherever you're going, you can eat it there. That happens a few times. And when we're traveling, I'll remind you of that, because I myself will be thinking about it and making sure that I have something for me. Okay?
Can I just add to that, if you are gonna be bringing like snacks, which you should, if it's not already like if you're bringing the kind of snack that isn't pre-sealed, like a granola bar, an individual granola bar, something like that, bring it in like a Ziploc bag or something that doesn't attract critters in your hotel room or something like that. Just kind of be mindful of that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, what I usually do is I buy a box of Ziploc bags and I just throw it in my suitcase, because there's so many times when they're useful, you know. Okay.
I have a question
Yes.
about like food. Like when we went to Australia, like you can't bring in bananas, right? So like if you had like trail mix with banana chips, like you had to throw that away. Is there anything like that for Mexico?
In my experience, dried fruit, nobody has a problem with that. Fresh stuff, yes, that would be confiscated. But dried stuff, I mean, I myself sometimes carry things like that, and I've never been hassled
That should
about
be
it.
okay.
Can we bring fresh stuff back?
Nope. I mean, you can bring it on the plane, like flying from Mexico to here. You can bring like fruit on the plane and you can eat it, but they won't let you get it through customs. Dried things, yes, but it's too bad, because it'd be cool to bring like, you know, mangoes. Yeah.
So when you say like bring food wherever we're going that certain day, I take it you mean like we'll have an opportunity to like go get food when we're in Mexico from like a store or something?
Yeah, so we will, I mean, I provide the opportunity for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, okay? There are, and if you look at the syllabus, you know, every single day I talk about where we're gonna eat or what we might do, you know? And there will be specific times when eating will be weird, you know, like we're not gonna get lunch, so make sure you bring some stuff, and only a few times, but I say that. otherwise, you know, for example, breakfasts, most days, maybe even every day, you know, I tell people the night before, okay, you know, I'm gonna be down in the hotel restaurant at 8 o'clock having breakfast. Anyone who wants to join me can. You know, some people do, some people don't, as you wish, you know. Lunch is more, you're a captive, right? Because as a group, we're out doing our thing, whatever, and so we'll go to a restaurant, and so you'll have limited opportunities, you know, there. Dinner is more like breakfast, where you can do it with the group, you can do something different, or whatever.
Is there any hotels that we're gonna be staying at that have like the complimentary breakfast like we do at some American hotels?
Yeah, one of them, the last one in Ciudad del Carmen does. None of the others do.
What kinds of foods do they offer for breakfast? Is it kind of the same as we have here?
Varies from place to place. So for example, in Mexico City, in our hotel, they have a nice breakfast buffet. Lots of fruit, you get your mango and papaya too, awesome. And they have cooked things like eggs and bacon and Mexican stuff, like quesadillas and things like that. And then various juices that are awesome too. At the place in Ciudad del Carmen, the hotel where the breakfast is free, you have a very small menu with limited choices. You know, you can get eggs and beans and tortillas, or you can get a fruit plate, or you can get 4 or 5 different things. But you know, at a place like that, or any place, there's also restaurants around, and many times, many places I have some familiarity with those, and so, you know, if you're not liking what the options are, just ask me or Connie, we can help you out.
And then as far as like buying our own food and keeping our own food, we have access to refrigeration in the hotel rooms?
In the hotel rooms, no.
Okay.
Okay, in the hotel, not really. Okay, so the easy answer, the quick answer to that is no, but the actual answer is in some of the hotels, I'm very friendly with the hotel staff because I've been to these places lots of times. And, you know, sometimes I ask them, usually it's for my own stuff, but why not for one of you guys' stuff, you know? I ask them, hey, it would be okay if we put this in your, you know, refrigerator, and so, but you shouldn't really count on that. It might be possible.
Yeah, I was more asked like for the food too, but I'm also diabetic, and so I was worried about refrigeration for my medication.
If that's an issue, then you should talk to us about it, because that might be something that we have to make special arrangements for, and those arrangements might involve costs, and they might involve the CISI insurance too. So I think that both of you guys should talk to me at some point after we're done here, if you have time, but if not, some other time soon, and we'll figure out what you need, and we'll make sure that you can get it in a reliable way. Okay?
For the hotels, do they provide like the towels and all that stuff?
They
for
do.
showering and all that?
Yep, they do. Our hotels are like basic, you know, I guess you might call them like 2-star hotels or something like that, you know. I mean, a couple of them have restaurants. Some of them are really nice, like they have free food for people. I mean, I don't mean meals, but just like snacks and stuff like that. Many of them have water, free water that you can use, you know.
Like bottled water?
Yeah, like 5-gallon dispensers of bottled water you can refill your, you know, your things with. All the hotels are safe. They're not luxury, you know, but they definitely have, you know, all of your bedding and soap for the shower and towels and stuff like that. One thing you might want to think about is a towel for the swimming. You know, like there's a couple of times where we're going to be swimming, not at the hotel, but out at places. So people often ask me, can I take the hotel towels for that? You know, and my answer is no, you're not supposed to, but then I do it. You know, so like you're not really supposed to, right? So
Bring
if-
it back though, don't you?
Yeah, of course. You bring it back, but you know, if it gets dirty, you know, because you're laying on it or something, you might end up having to pay for it or something, you know? So if you care, I usually just opt not to care. I'm wet, I just put my shirt on, I don't care, you know? But if you do care, you might want to bring a towel, you know? These are good questions.
Does Mexico use the same like plug and outlets system
Yep.
as we do?
Yeah, that's exactly what we talk about now. So electrical stuff, no adapters needed, all right? You just your normal plugs that we have. This is changing as things get modernized, but sometimes in some hotels, not all of the outlets will have the grounded plug, you know, the 3 holes. You know, if you have an adapter for your computer or something, you need the 3. So I recommend bringing one of these, right? It's a $2 item at the hardware store. Okay, you can pass it around. I always bring one. If you don't need it, big deal. It's a tiny little thing, takes no space. Another thing I recommend is bringing something like this. Okay, extension cord. I mean, the length isn't important. I like a small one because it takes up less space in my suitcase. But you know, turns one outlet into 3. Right? Because, you know, nowadays, I mean, for me personally, I have phone, iPod, computer, or not computer, but tablet. I have like 3 devices just for me, you know. Sometimes people, you know, you add a hair dryer to that or whatever, other things. So I recommend having some kind of a splitter deal like that, because your roommate will also have approximately 3 devices, right? Let's see. Okay, photos. In the past, what I've always done is I've asked people that, you know, do you want to do the following thing? And people always say yes. And that is that at the end of the course, I can collect somehow all the photos that everybody takes and distribute them somehow to everybody. Okay, so if you guys want, I'd be happy to do that. And it's nice because, you know, you go to some place and later you say, oh, I wish I had taken a picture of this thing. Well, probably someone did. Okay, so just putting that out there. We'll talk more about that when time gets closer. Another thing about cameras. So if you think you might need or possibly need an extra memory card or something like that for your phone, for your camera, think about that beforehand, get it beforehand and bring it. Because first of all, electronics are very expensive in Mexico. And second of all, it takes time to find a place and to do it, and we don't always have that time, you know, at the moment that you need it. Okay, so you might want to think ahead to that. I mean, like what I do is I take a lot of pictures and I just make sure that when I have internet, I, you know, upload them somewhere so that I free up the space on my phone. Whatever, just be aware that it's not going to be easy to buy a memory card.
What's the cell service like there?
Cell service is pretty good in my experience, available pretty much everywhere except sometimes when we go to the rural areas like Papantla and Palenque, you're not going to have cell service everywhere. You will have it in the towns, but when we go to like the archaeological site, which is the reason we went to that place to begin with, you often won't have it.
But if you don't have an international plan on your phone, you should be sure to turn off your data so that you're not charged roaming fees.
Yeah, we talked about that before, right? I don't mean to shut
No,
you
no,
up,
no.
right?
No need to repeat.
Okay, let's see, I'm still talking about like packing, what to bring, you know? All right, so, so one thing you might want to bring, I don't know, it's up to you, is like hand wash for clothes. Okay, did we talk about laundry before? Let's talk about laundry. So, laundromats, coin laundromats, pretty much don't exist in Mexico. Apparently it's a secret they haven't discovered yet, I don't know. But anyways, they don't exist, so that's not how you're going to wash your clothes. So options are, for years, I used to bring just like hand wash packets and wash stuff in the sink in my hotel room. And then I got sick of that, I don't do that anymore. The other option, which is more convenient, is you bring a bag of your dearly clothes to the hotel desk in the morning, and then it is magically returned to you in the afternoon, all cleaned and folded and pressed for pennies. You know, I mean, I do that now, and at a hotel, I'll bring like 3 or 4 days worth of clothes, get it back, and it ends up costing like $4 or something. You know, so that's what most people do. You have to be aware that if you give someone else your clothes, then there's always a chance that you won't come back, that they won't come back. Okay, that's never happened before, but it's theoretically possible. Every now and then, there's an item missing. It can often be found, because what happens is the hotels use some service, some laundry service, you know. Last year, one of the students did that and came back, and some pair of shorts was missing. And we were able to retrieve that. But who knows, we might be leaving the next day, you know. So just be aware that's a risk, but a small one. Pass these around too. There's little packets of hand wash. I don't know. I like to have them just in case I don't have time to do laundry. I can wash the next day's clothes. If you do wash any clothes in the hotel room or something, just be aware that the last couple of places that we're going to go to are humid. Okay, if you like, you know, wash that shirt that you need and you hang it to dry, it might take 2 days to dry. Okay, first couple places, not so much. Last few, yes. Okay. No. Okay, talked about Wi-Fi, that's good. All right, so let's see, communication. I guess we didn't talk that much about cell phones. So I'm looking at you, every time I say, do we talk about something, you look at me and you nod, and I think, oh, she remembers better than me. But I appreciate that. Okay, cell phones, so I don't know, I think I must have talked about this with 1 or 2 people, but I don't think we talked about it as a group. So, cell phones, they have cell service in Mexico. In my experience, some equipment doesn't work with certain kinds of cell towers. Okay, so what I suggest you do, and I did this, I don't have to do it every year because I did it once, but contact your cell phone provider and ask them, like in my case it's Verizon. You call customer service and you say, I got a question about international. They say, oh, just a minute, you want international? And they put me in touch with someone else, and they tell me, yep, your equipment will work in Mexico. I used to have a phone that wouldn't work in Mexico. And then you want to ask your cell phone provider about what your options are. I mean, if you don't do this, then probably you can use your phone as both a phone and an internet device, but it might be very expensive. Okay, in my case, this is a Verizon thing, but all the companies are competitive. I imagine something like this exists at all the companies. For $2 a day, that's while I'm traveling, I pay $2 a day, and what I get for that is my normal plan that I normally have is in effect in the other country. So that's what I use, and that's great. So, you know, my normal plan for however much data I use or whatever. They have other plans too, you know, like for $20 a month you get so many minutes and so many gigabytes or whatever. There's various options, but check with your cell phone provider. And what Ramona said before, I'm sorry that I cut you off, but it's her fault, she nodded.
Thanks a lot.
If you're not careful, you can rack up some pretty heavy charges. You know, we had a guy once who had signed on to some service to, you know, get automatic text for football scores or something like that, right? And he was hit with a $300 bill when he got home. Now, he was able to talk his way out of the bill, that's the happy ending, but still, there are things that you can do. You can turn off data roaming, there's, you know, okay. Hope nobody has a Samsung Galaxy Note 7. Because they tend to explode on airplanes, and all airlines have banned them. Okay, all right. So, of course, cell phones. So both Connie and I, and she sends her apologies, by the way. She was supposed to be here last week, but she got sick that day, and that's why she wasn't here, and she's traveling now. But anyways, she and I will each have cell phones provided by Study Abroad. You will all have contacts, and in theory, you'll be able to contact us at any time, you know, in case you need to.
Can I just add also about that, the phones? And this is, I work with another program, back to web program that goes to Italy in the summer, but she always mentions that it's, I mean, I don't know what your policy is on this, Sean, but it's really for like emergencies, like, and she uses her own personal phone, I think, but she just likes to stress it's not like to just chit chat, to call your professor while you're in Mexico or whatever. I don't know what your guidelines are for students contacting you. You're together a lot though, so this is a little bit different structure.
We're together a lot. I don't really have any guidelines. If somebody was, you know, calling me all the time for stupid things, I'd probably tell you don't do that, you know. But
just be mindful, like it's not like a trivial thing to call. You're going to see them a lot anyway, so
but what often happens, like last year, for example, I would get texts from this one person who said, you know, this other person and I went over here. You know, just that I found that helpful, you know, because we're moving as a group, and okay, wander around in 30 minutes, meet here or whatever, you know. So I will play that by ear. Okay, so I mentioned that Wi-Fi is theoretically available in hotels. You know, emphasis on the theoretical. It's usually available if you want to stream Netflix videos at night. Good luck with that. You know, it might work, might not. You know. Yes.
I just have to leave for my test. I rescheduled.
Say that again.
I have to leave for my
Oh,
test.
that's okay. We're just about done.
Okay.
Anyways. Thank you. Couple more things about shopping. Okay, I mean that's one thing that some people really enjoy doing. I'm one of those people. So we're going to be going to places, and I will tell you, you know, about like, for example, one of the first days we go to Teotihuacan, which is an archaeological site outside Mexico City, and after the site, you have to run the gauntlet through a whole bunch of vendors selling all kinds of stuff, which is a cool thing, actually. And so when we go through there, I'll just make a little announcement to people. You know, if you want to get this kind of thing, this is the only place you're going to find it on a trip. You know, if you want to get these kind of things, which are available here, you're going to have a much better selection at cheaper prices, you know, somewhere else where we're going. So I will make hopefully helpful suggestions like that frequently. And I've been to all the places that we're going many times. So if you have any, you know, questions about that, you know, by all means hit me up, and Connie too. You know, I'm looking for this kind of thing. Where do you think I might buy that? We can help you out with that. So let's see. I don't know. I'm down to my like miscellaneous section where I'm just like telling you random things. So Mexico has some weird but adorable customs, you know, about greeting. For example, lots of handshaking. Okay, men to men shake hands all the time. Okay, and you walk into a room, hello, shake hands. Time to leave, shake hands all the time. Men to women or women to women, they do this weird but adorable kissing thing where you touch cheeks and make kissing noises. You know, it happens all the time.
So like think France, like the French area.
I suppose don't have that much experience in France. Yeah,
Wow.
and it's really kind of wonderful. You know, Mexico is they have much more like friendly kinds of customs like that than we do. You know, what do we have? We have sup. That's it, you know. So I don't know. You're going to see me doing that all the time with people that I know, and so just so you know.
Is that like something that you do like with strangers or just people you know?
Not so much. More like people you know. But like, for example, there's this wonderful woman named Berenice. who's going to be our guide at a couple places that we're going in Mexico City. She's a great person, and she's just really lovable, you know, and you'll see, everybody will probably do the kissing thing with her when we leave, because you'll want to, you know? Strangers, not so much, but.
About that, will we have like one specific tour guide like her, or will we have like different ones in different cities?
Different ones in different cities. In case of Barry, she's a licensed tour guide, and she speaks great English. But also she's a business owner, the owner of a travel agency, and so she's going to be our guide. But also, I contract with her to do all of our transportation in Mexico City, to do our charter transportation from Mexico City to Papantla, which is the next place, and also at the end of the trip to do our transportation as well. So probably she herself won't be with us except when she's giving us the tours. But anyways, no, different tour guides in different places.
So my grandmother's from like a remote village in Mexico, and I don't know if it's the same for the cities, but when she goes there, she tends to do the kissing thing and the handshake thing with everyone, no matter if they're a stranger or not. Like if she gets on a bus and she doesn't know anyone, she usually has to shake everyone's hand. So that's the custom, at least for her small village.
Yeah, well, that's kind of adorable, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I think if I got on that bus, I might not do that. I don't know.
That's the custom, and she does that in America all the time.
Oh, wow.
Like that's just the way it is.
She probably does it on elevators too, right?
Like that's just the way, like if you walk into a room or anything and you don't know like the people, you're supposed to introduce yourself no matter what.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. In Mexico, people are very, very friendly. You know, speak Spanish as much as you can, because it's fun, it's challenging, and also it's the way to make instant friends. You know?
As far as the Spanish, do they have any like specific greetings that they use? Because there's like different versions of Spanish everywhere, so.
Yes, lots.
Okay.
Okay, and so in our 4-hour Spanish for Travelers course, you know, my friend Richard, who will be the instructor for that, he'll talk about a lot of that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, in Mexico, you say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You know, the Spanish versions of those. Much more often than here. I mean, here it's culturally acceptable to say good morning. You know, it's less common than saying hello, but we do say that, right? But they always do. You know, by the same token, it's okay if you say hello instead of good morning. You know, but they're just interesting customs that make Mexico very charming. You know.
Will he also go over things we shouldn't say or do? So we don't do like any faux pas.
Like, I think your opportunities for faux pas are pretty small.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not gonna, you know, he's not gonna teach you like vulgarities and say, don't say these things, you know?
No, I just mean like stuff that we would normally do. Like, you know, every country has their things like that you just can't do.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced any of those in Mexico, but maybe I was being rude without knowing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I can't even think of what those things would be, but I don't think that that's anything you need to worry about. You know, one thing you might want to worry about is if you're, you know, especially in Ciudad del Carmen. In Ciudad del Carmen, we're going to be there for like 4 days. We're going to be hanging out with a bunch of the students there a lot, okay? And so you're going to get to know these people, right? And so at that particular location, there might be a lot of this handshaking thing. So you might want to like wash your hands a lot. I mean, you should do that anyways, but just be aware, right? I mean, you don't want to get sick. And so we're clearly into the questions and answer part of the day. I have, oh, I brought this too. Another $2 or maybe even $1 hardware item, sink stopper. If you plan on maybe washing clothes in your hotel room, I recommend one of these. Don't trust the sink stopper in your bathroom sink. In fact, you might not even have one. So.
When I met with you, I asked you about the the public bathrooms
Yeah.
in Mexico City.
Yeah. So I think we talked about that, didn't we? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Public
Yeah,
bathrooms?
you said to
Okay.
bring like toilet covers.
Right, yeah.
But the paying for them?
Yeah, so did we talk about that? So often in Mexico City, in public places, like restaurants, not always, but sometimes, bus stations, which we're not gonna be using, whatever. Often the public restaurants, you have to pay. There's coins. So now it's pennies, you know, you might pay 5 pesos, something like that. And it's not a big deal. The bigger deal is that the cleanliness of public bathrooms is not what you would hope. But you might need coins and you might not have them, that's the bad news. The good news is, you're traveling with a group, someone's gonna have the coins. So I would suggest not stressing about that, you know.
Yeah, just something to know, I feel like, to expect it, because that really, when I was in Mexico City the last time, I was really little and my mom didn't know, and it was this huge thing, she didn't have any coins, and...
Last year we had this one guy who was like, what? Paying to use the bathroom? I refuse, you know, and then he'd be like walking around, you know, like that, and like, really? You're not gonna just pay the 5 pesos to use the bathroom?
So I know, like, they don't necessarily have like a Walgreens in Mexico, but do they have stores similar to that if you need like deodorant or something?
Yes, they do,
Okay.
they do. And in all the places where we're at, I know where those places are.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we have free time, you're free to explore, but also feel free to hit me or Connie up with questions like that. We could point you in the right direction.
For free time, are we allowed to do whatever we want?
Within reason, you know.
Just watch it.
Yeah.
Free for a while.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the syllabus carefully, it says exactly, when, now, you know, everything is subject to change, right? But it says exactly, you know, what, you know, on this day, you know, we're gonna do this thing in the afternoon, and then, you know, yeah. So, yeah, there'll be a fair amount of free time. The only thing I don't want you to do is go off by yourself, because it's just not that smart to do that in a foreign country. At least someone should know what you're doing. You know, if you know, you run off with someone and you tell someone else, hey, we're going over here. Okay, fine. And then when you go over here, you decide to go somewhere else and there's no one to tell. Okay, that happens, that's fine. But just in general, so I can pretend that I care about, you know, your well-being. So. Any other things, questions?
Do you have a luggage size limitation?
We will, but I'm holding off on that because the air tickets have not been finalized yet. They will be within days, I think. And I'm not even sure what the airlines are going to be yet, but very soon we'll know that. We'll send you all the information, including all the information about luggage. Typically, though, just to get a general idea, typically you're allowed one checked bag for free, you know, included with the price of the airfare. You know, typical checked bag size bag, usually it's 50-pound limit, and then normal dimensions, you know. And then carry-on is also sort of normal. Now, there are some changes. I noticed that now, for international flights, they're starting to weigh your carry-on bags. That's a relatively new thing, new within the last year. So I don't have any personal experience with that, but I'll find out what I can find out, and I will send you whatever I find out. Sir?
It's not that bad. So I went to Germany last winter and my bag was overweight and they just literally make you throw it away. Or you can like put it in other people's bags on your trip if you if they have space.
Right,
So
that's
you
true.
can work around it.
And another thing, here's a little secret, is that the desk agents or whatever, you know, the people that you talk to when you weigh your bag, you know, they have discretion. So just like being nice to them and smiling and being friendly, as opposed to like harumphing, you know, what, I can't, goes a long way, because they might just say, I like your face, fine, I'll let it slide. Seriously, you know. So.
You talked about not like leaving room in your suitcase for souvenirs and things like that, John, last time?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Okay.
She says no. So. Yeah, so, you know, that's true. I mean, if you like the idea that, oh, cool, I might have the opportunity to buy some cool stuff, then, you know, save some space. You could do the suitcase within a suitcase trick. I do that sometimes. I don't buy too much stuff in Mexico anymore because I've been there so many times, been there, done that. But, you know, you can put a smaller suitcase inside your bigger one, you know, so you have an extra. Also, when I send you the information about baggage, included with that information will be what the cost would be to have an extra bag. You know, and sometimes it's not that much. Sometimes it's like $25. And so you might decide, it'd be good to know that, because you might decide, you know what, this is the only time in my life I'm gonna see this kind of stuff, I can buy this kind of stuff, it's worth it to pay $25 extra to be able to do that. Personal decision, but at least you have that option. And another thing too is it's easy and cheap to buy suitcases in Mexico. And I know where to do that in every place we're going. So, you know, if that situation happens for you, just hit me up. I'll show you, you know, for like $5 or maybe $10 at most, you could get like a throwaway bag, you know.
I gotta go to my counter sheet.
Okay.
Because it starts at noon.
That's fine, we're just about done anyway, so.
But keep in mind, if you do have 2 suitcases, you'll have to navigate those suitcases from location to location, so your responsibility.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited, you know. I do this every year, but I love it every time, you know. It's cool that we had the whole group together. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like as far as just general things or like market stuff, what are you most excited to do or to buy? Or to
Me,
see?
personally?
Yeah.
Okay, Ramona, you might have to close your ears for part of this.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
The tequila tour.
Chocolate, not tequila, mezcal. Okay, mezcal is,
Close.
yeah.
Oh.
That's like a liquor that is one of the wonderful things in Oaxaca. And, you know, a bottle usually accidentally makes its way into my suitcase. You know?
Somehow.
We're going to go to a mezcal distillery where you get a tour and you get a chance to buy some if you want, you know, completely optional. Plus, in Oaxaca, it's available everywhere. Chocolate. I always buy chocolate. In Papantla, that's our second destination. Papantla is at the center of the vanilla, the place where vanilla grows in Mexico. So vanilla extract for cheap. It's not that cheap. I mean, a bottle like, you know, this much might cost like $8 of like concentrated vanilla extract, but that's cheap.
Really cheap.
Yeah.
It's like less than a third of the price that
Yeah,
it
right.
is here.
Right. And also they have these great, in the markets in Papantla, they have these little figurines, some like animal themes, sometimes religious themes, made from vanilla beans. And the idea is you take it and you hang it as like a room freshener, or you put it in your sock drawer and your socks smell nice forever, you know. Things like that. In Oaxaca, that's the center of the handicraft, crafts universe in Mexico, in Oaxaca. So they have these things called alebrijes, which are I don't know if you know them, they're like little wooden creatures that are painted really amazingly, and they're cheap and beautiful. What else? In Palenque, they have cool Mayan themed stuff to buy, like blankets and wall hangings and things like that. I could go on and on.
I know you said that when we're gonna be like going on a walk through the jungle.
Yes.
And you said wear long sleeves for like.
Well, I recommend that.
Yeah. Does it matter like more loosely fit clothing or like?
Doesn't matter. So in our jungle tour in Oaxaca, in Palenque, it's supposed to be an hour. Last year it was 3 hours because the guide is this awesome guy named Salvador, and he likes me. I like him. He's like, you guys, you know, did I ever show you this? You know, did I ever show you this? You know, it was awesome. But anyways, it's even if you wore shorts and a t-shirt, it is really hot and you're gonna sweat like crazy. okay? Because it's hot, it's not so much that it's hot, it's a little bit hot, but it's humid. And so, you know, if you wear long clothing, you sweat like crazy, just like you would if you didn't wear long clothing. So, and if you wear long clothing, then you reduce the risk of getting bit by malaria-carrying mosquitoes. That's why I recommend it.
Right.
It's a personal choice. I mean, I told you that I'm gonna do a shoe check before we climb pyramids. I'm not gonna let you climb if you wear flip-flops. I'm not gonna do such a check for long sleeves. Oh, you're not wearing long sleeves, you can't go. I'm not gonna do that. It's just my advice about, think about that.
For flip-flops, do you mean like literal flip-flops or sandals in general?
Sandals are fine. I mean, I think that ideally you want to have something that has some kind of ankle support, something that's not, a shoe that's not going to slide around on your foot. I don't get like really hardcore into it. I mean, if you're wearing sandals and like they have a strap
like
in the back,
Chacos.
I'm not going to object. Flip-flops I will object to because I myself wear flip-flops sometimes, and I know what happens when they get wet. Your foot kind of slides around in that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Oh,
So, will we have any, like, times that you suggest that we dress up?
good question. So, I'm like a jeans and t-shirt guy, so I like never dress up even when I'm supposed to, you know? But there are some times where we're gonna go to some restaurants that are, I don't wanna say like nice, you know, not like restaurants with a dress code, but kinda nice. And a lot of times people feel more comfortable dressing up in a place like that. So this is a common question that I get. No, you don't need to. But there's nothing wrong with it. You know, girls ask me, you know, should I bring a dress or whatever? You know, if you're asking me that, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there will be a few times where, you know, that you'll feel nice. Oh, it's fun. We're going out to this group dinner at a nice restaurant, and you know, you can dress up, and that's fine. I'll be wearing my jeans and t-shirt, but it's fine, you know. So, but there's no like formal activities where you would actually be embarrassed if you didn't have nice clothes.
Okay.
Okay, so tell you what, our time is over, the official time. I have time to sit around and chat if people want to. I know there's a couple people that I asked to stick around if you have time right now. But other than that, thank you guys.
Thank you, safe travels.
So the next time we're all going to be together is going to be on January 2nd in this room. But you know how to find me if anything comes up.
Don't we need to stop by on December 5th?
Oh, that's true, but I mean together.
Yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
was just making sure.
So you guys got all the timeline of the presentations and all that, so I'll be in touch with you guys about that, but, okay? So James, you gotta come up to me too.
Are you? Yes. Awesome, I'm Sarah. Hi.
Okay.
So I had never heard of this box. So I did a
Okay, so that's kind of like as you wish, you know? But by the way, it's a great question to ask on the Facebook forum.
Like, do you bring like techniques for
Okay,
like?
so what I do is I
Oh, yeah.
wet, and now we can something.
This is their like first United States. I can send you.
I'll forget the
I saved the links to all of the pages that I'm And I was wondering about like how do you understand the environmental hazards and pollution? Yeah, but it sounded like, so I had just one, it sounded like that the regulations are being lowered so that they will have
Because, you know,
Oh,
I
I
typically
didn't know
know,
that.
like,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they
it's
have
already
to
done.
use
You
it
guys
as
do that as
their
well.
address.
Oh, you're, that's like,
Yeah, that's what I like.
just because that's totally relatable that we just took the topic and.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys must stick around a
Yeah, it's
minute,
not like
right?
that, and then, they have, so it's not like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
it's
of,
good. The only
water.
connectivity Monday
Like,
to
they would have to clean the water
Yeah.
before use and after
Tuesday.
use, something like that, sometimes they would do that, we have so many plates,
Yeah.
that it would be a problem.
Yeah, this is work, I mean, I don't
She was out till Monday, so. That's why I had to go.
Then I will, yes, the rest of
Oh,
it.
good, like,
I'll just copy and paste and send it to you.
And then, so what do you think we should do? I've never worked with somebody else on a project before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, tell me if I'm being terrible.
Oh, man, like I
Like on the way
can
out.
talk for hours
Yes,
about
see the
it.
elevator. I'll just put it
Yeah,
over,
there's-
not write it up.
So I'm
There's
really
three main
not
plants
sure
we
because
can
I
go
still
for.
don't understand
Currently,
really what
pondweed,
it
and great
is.
portobello,
But
and biggest
when
ones have been around for a while.
explaining, we should probably,
We just started finding starry stonework,
considering the
which is
fact
a
that
macroalga.
they need the water system, we
It's
should
kind of related to
explain what,
anaphylaxis,
like
Nutella
what it
and
is
Cara.
to
It's a
be
metabolic
entirely
disease.
water and,
We've
how
done
contaminating fresh
before,
water
all male
like
clones.
will
And,
affect
it's kind of
so
where
much
the
more
nickname
than
came
just the
from.
water, it'll affect
It's
the
the region,
people,
and it's
it'll
endangered,
affect
like,
the
in Europe,
animals
like
living
anywhere.
in the water.
And it's like taken over our inland lakes here.
I don't know if we should
Yeah,
talk
like
about like
chemicals
the
don't work because
political,
they have these
things with
bulbs
that.
that
Right,
grow and the rhizoids.
because
Like
it's
on
like the
these, they're
regulation.
super hardy.
I know,
Like,
Then
we're
how do
trying
you
to
feel
find
about
out
it?
if freezing works now.
I
Like, so we're doing
feel
an
that
experiment
if
where
I
we
lived in
Yeah.
Mexico,
where if
like
we draw down
during
a
the
lake,
last 2
like
years,
a steam lake, if we draw it
a
down,
lot of
if it'll
hatred toward our
freeze
president
out over
already,
there.
so we said, he's lowering
Otherwise,
regulations
we use
and,
that.
Oh, just to
Yeah.
increase that?
But
Yeah.
mechanical
Let's-
removal.
James,
we should
We're
ask.
starting to move away from
Or-
chemical
Did you watch the
treatment
video
because
from
we've
last
been
time?
doing it for
Like what?
okay,
Because
you
he
need to
gave
use
us
that, okay?
no
I
information about what
would
to
be really
write.
happy if you did,
Yeah.
because,
So,
no,
my
but that is
understanding
an
is
example
that
of the detail that you get, that you got at the last
I thought
orientation
there was supposed
list,
to be
okay?
some
So
kind of like
please
PowerPoint presentation.
watch that,
Mhm.
and obviously if you have any
So
questions, you
maybe
can
we start,
contact me.
I,
And also,
again,
it's a
like,
little bit
it's
of
hard to
a
say because I don't really
favor to me,
understand.
because, you know, otherwise I have to sit
Right,
down
we
with
just-
you for
we
an
need to
hour
look
and
into
tell me
it
all
and
kinds of
figure it
stuff, and,
Okay.
okay?
So
if
I
you don't
think
mind.
at this point, we should probably just
so that's
focus
part
on
of
getting
the-
as much background
That's the reading
information
assignment
as
for the book, it's
possible,
not
and
the
then
whole
once we
book, it's
feel
the first
confident,
259
like,
pages. It's also
Then we'll
described
probably
in
know
the
what our
syllabus
topics
as well.
are.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I gave you your
And
stuff.
probably, like,
I don't have anything else
general
in
rule that
particular I
I
need
try to
to
use
talk to you
for
about unless you have something for me.
presentations, it's
so.
supposed to be 10 minutes,
Not really, I
right?
just was gonna ask what presentation.
Something
but she
like
kinda-
that, I usually do
Okay,
like,
and then, thank you
like
for that.
one
You
slide
gave me
per
some-
minute.
One thing I
kind
might
of
tell you, I'm
thing.
gonna
So
turn
if
my
it's
camera
like a
off.
10-minute presentation, it's 10 slides. Obviously we can do less than that.